Hi, everyone, and welcome to our session today on the practice of deep listening. So sometimes we think we're good listeners, but when we really tune into how we listen, we're probably just hearing sounds. And actually, I Googled a quote by Thich Nhat Hanh that says, deep listening simply means listening with compassion. So I'm very curious to see what today's talk is going to be about. And today we are very lucky to have Sister Chan Nghiem and Sister Trang Thon speaking with us. So Sister Chan Nghiem is a fully ordained nun with the Plum Village tradition. She ordained in March 2009 at Plum Village, France, and has served in different Plum Village centres, including France, Asian Institute of Applied Buddhism in Hong Kong, and now she currently resides at Stream Entering Monastery, Melbourne, Australia. So her interests are sharing the practices with children, teens, and young adults. Sister Trang Thon is a Plum Village nun of Vietnamese origin. So before becoming a nun in 2011, she lived in Brisbane, Queensland, and practiced with the Brisbane Mindfulness Practicing Group and the Solidity and Freedom Sangha Vietnamese speaking. So she currently lives and practices with the Plum Village Sangha at the Stream Entering Monastery in Melbourne. So today is going to be a fully interactive session. So we'll start with a guided meditation from these sisters, and then Tina will be facilitating discussion. So without further ado, everyone, I'll hand it over to sisters. And please welcome the sisters.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. And we're very happy to be able to join you wherever you are. Yes, we're kind of in your home, and you are also at the monastery at the same time. So I would like to ask everyone to mute themselves so that we can have a smooth, uninterrupted session of guided sitting meditation. And I would like to invite everyone to sit in a comfortable position with your back upright, but relaxed. You can sit on a chair or sit on a cushion. And if you're sitting on a cushion, you can try and have 3 points touching the floor, i.e. your 2 knees and your butt on the cushion. That would help to have a very stable posture. You can either close your eyes or have them half open, looking about 1 meter in front of you. And just allow yourself to listen to the guided sentences for the guiding of the in-breath and the out-breath, and just follow the instructions. Okay, so I will start with 3 sounds of the bell, and we continue from there. Breathing in, I'm only aware of the in-breath. Breathing out, I'm only aware of the out-breath. Only in-breath, only out-breath. Breathing in, I'm aware of my abdomen rising. Breathing out, I'm aware of my abdomen falling in. Abdomen rises, abdomen falls. Breathing in, my breath becomes more peaceful. Breathing out, I smile to my peaceful breath. Breath, peaceful, smile. Breathing in, my breathing is nourishing me. Breathing out, my breathing is relaxing my body. Breath, nourishing. Breath, relaxing. Breathing in, I'm aware of a little pain in my body. Breathing out, I release the tension surrounding the pain. Little pain, releasing tensions. Breathing in, I relax my body. Breathing out, I feel the joy of relaxation. Relaxing body, feeling joy. Breathing in, I'm aware of a little anxiety in my mind. Breathing out, I let go of the tension around the anxiety. Little anxiety, releasing tension. Breathing in, I'm aware of mind in every cell of my body. Breathing out, I feel my mind relaxed in every cell of my body. Mind in every cell, mind relaxed. Breathing in, I enjoy the in-breath. Breathing out, I enjoy the out-breath. Enjoying in-breath, enjoying out-breath. Dear community, thank you for joining us for a short guided sitting meditation. Now we can uncross our legs and give them a massage and just relax, I suppose. Continue to relax as in the guided sitting meditation has guided us through. Continue to enjoy being in a relaxed state. So we pass it back to Tina or Alice.
Thank you. Yes,
Yes,
so much. Just checking with. I'm getting some feedback. Just bear with me. Sorry.
I think you're good now. There's no echo, right? Yeah.
Okay, I heard some echo just now, so thank you. Thank you so much, sisters, for firstly being here. We have some friends online, and we also have some friends here at the Meta Centre in person as well. And sisters wanted to have an interactive discussion today with us, which is really wonderful. And also what is wonderful is a very important and practical topic that we'll be exploring about today, which is on deep listening. So perhaps, Venerable, if you don't mind, maybe we can start with a dialogue where, if you don't mind, I'll ask you some questions. We can have some discussion about deep listening, and then I'll open to everyone else. If anyone else wishes to participate in the discussion, you are very welcome to as well. You could unmute yourself. The people who are here in person, feel free to just jump in. And for those who don't really want to talk but really want to participate, you could also utilize the chat as well. So there's also the chat function. You could put some comments or questions in there, and I'll incorporate that into our discussions. And for those who are here in person, we've got some pieces of paper and pen, so you can write that down as well. So shall we start? Sorry, Venerable, you're just muted.
Yeah, sorry, we're more comfortable if you call us sisters, don't call us Venerable.
Okay.
We feel like too high up there, so we're just sisters is good.
Sorry, sisters, you were saying something. I think you were on mute.
Can you hear us now?
Yes.
Yes, we were just saying it would be nice for you to, we feel kind of closer to you if you call us sisters rather than Venerable. It seems to be a bit of a gap if you call us Venerable. So I think Sister Mai feels the same.
Yeah, but I think maybe if you're so used to it and sometimes you forget, it's okay.
Yeah,
We
yes.
understand.
Thanks for your patience. It really is that. Okay, so let's start. So we've got the topic today, which is deep listening. So, sisters, could you explain to us what is the practice of deep listening and why is it so important?
Maybe I ask Sister Mai Thon to start because I already did the guided meditation.
So, dear community, first of all, I would like to also thank for having us. We are very humble to be here with you tonight, and we don't come feeling that we have all the answers in the world. You know, we are here like a friends on the path with you, and we walk the path together, and we will just exchange ideas and learn from each other. I am sure everybody has their insight to share with us. It's just tonight that you are so kind to give us time to share our practice with you. So let's just start from there. And what I like to say that let's imagine that we don't listen deeply. When we listen to people, we just listen with half our ear, or we just kind of, you know, just listen very casually and so on. And sometimes we just think we have a filter in our head, and we just listen people through our own filter. And so actually, in the end, we end up not really understand the other person. And in my own experience, in the past, when I worked in a domestic violence field, which required a lot of listening, every day I met people who came and needed some assistance, and they brought to me many sad stories. And if I didn't apply the practice of deep listening, I don't think I could actually avoid being burned out, because it was not easy. So I remember that very well, because in my life, it was like a pre and after. You know, pre means that before I learned about deep listening. And of course, when I was trained, I also learned about listening skill. But when I came across this practice, it's actually brought a very new light into my listening, because that brought in the element of compassion and non-judgment. Of course, non-judgmental is across the board, but the element of compassion was very important. So on a nutshell, I couldn't imagine that we could really understand the other person or understand ourselves if we don't listen deeply. And without understanding, love is really difficult. It's very difficult to love, or we just love in our own way, that we don't really love it. Our love would not bear very kind of positive outcome. So, but for me, I'd like to ask Sinh Nghiem to add in, if you have anything else to share.
About the practice of deep listening.
Yeah, about the question that I asked. Why we need to practice deep listening?
Dear community, I think Sister Mai pretty well said, about the need for deep listening. Listening also is to ourselves. Listening to another person, we often need to do in our work or with our family. But I think in this technology age, we rarely listen to ourselves, because our senses are always being occupied by all the stimulation around us, especially the internet. You go on there, and then after, you spend a whole period of time looking and reading and listening and watching something, and you forget you have a body. You forget that you have a body, and you lose connection with your body. So for me, a very important part of listening is to listen to myself. First of all, connecting with my body, being aware of when I feel tired, being aware of my energy level. And sometimes when we interact with people, a lot of emotions get triggered, and perhaps in that moment while you're at work or while you're with the family members, it's not convenient to be able to process, to again listen to how really listen deeply to how you really feel about something. Maybe you react in that moment, but actually there is something deeper inside that needs to be expressed, but in that moment, because of a reaction, you don't get to express what is deeper in your heart. So I think the practice of listening to oneself is really important. And in Plum Village, we have a very basic practice of stopping, and I think this is such an important practice that we can do every day, many times a day. The practice of stopping, to just connect with our breathing. Our breath is a very good bridge between our mind and our body. So when we hear the sound of a bell, we can come back to the awareness of our breath. Just to the in-breath, you can perhaps feel the coolness of the air as it enters your nostril. And on the out-breath, you might feel the warm air coming out of your nostril. And in the few in-breaths and out-breaths, you can just become aware of your body and just relaxing your body in that moment. And when we are able to do this many times in a day, it helps us to be able to be calm, to maintain calmness, so that we are, first of all, connected and listening to our body, feeling how our body is, being aware of our energy and our emotions. And then secondly, to be able to be present, offer our presence to the people around us in a way that is calm and kind of solid. And we can do this anytime. When we're stopping at a red light, instead of thinking about something, come back to our breathing. come back to the awareness of your body and listening to the breath, listening to the body. This is how I like to practice listening often during the whole day. So yes, that's maybe something to continue.
Yes. Thank you, sisters. What a wonderful opening to talk about your experiences, talking about also, we heard from Sister Mai earlier, previously in your background, working with domestic violence victims. We'll explore a bit more about that, how it is that we can hear people's sad stories, their challenges and their suffering, and how do we hold that with so much compassion, non-judgment, but also without being burnt out. So perhaps we can explore more about that too. And it seems like with deep listening, we've already touched on some of those qualities. For example, being able to listen to ourselves. So Sister Sinh, you were talking about listening to our body, listening to our breath, taking that time for us to stop and connect, and also offering our presence then to others. Just wanted to check, for those who may not know how to practice deep listening, deep listening indeed. So what would be some instructions that we can offer to people so that they can practice deep listening in their day-to-day?
Yeah, so thank you for that. It's very practical. And I suppose that without the basic practices, as Sister Nghiem shared earlier, because when we want to practice deep listening, we need to kind of build a little bit of a foundation for us. Let's say our breathing, in the practice of Plum Village, we also have another practice called walking meditation, and I am sure that some of you here or all of you here probably already practice that. So we can talk about different things, but when we come back to the day-to-day stuff, there has to be some kind of practice, very basic, that we have to do day in and day out, so that it's like a fuel to feed our energy of solidity and freedom and create space inside of us. And those practices would be walking meditation, would be sitting meditation, would be mindful of our breathing. And those practices we can do during the whole day. And when we eat, we also practice eating meditation. And when you do those things, you don't have to tell people that you are doing it, you are practicing. You just simply bring your awareness into what you do. You may walk very normal pace, but you bring your awareness into the contact between your steps and the floor, for example. Or while you are sitting right here listening to us, you can gently come back to your breathing also. So you can just invite those things into your daily life without having to set aside the time or the space to do it. If you constantly doing these things, somehow you will find that you have more space in here, and you will become more solid, so you can hold things a little bit better. And of course, these things need time to improve and to develop, and it takes me many years from a very reactive person, emotionally reactive. I had to recognize that habit energy in me, and I try to come back to my breathing, doing it over and over again. And then one day I found myself less reactive, because I could come back to my breathing while people are talking to me. And when I could see that something coming up in me, I recognize it, and then I came back to my breathing and hold the space. So the same thing we do, so that we can build up that foundation And when we listen to people, we can always come back to that foundation. It will hold us, it's like a ground us. And then that way we can just sit and listen longer, or stand and listen longer, or lie down and listen longer, wherever position you will be at that time. Yeah, so I think I'm running around a little bit and I'm losing it. But basically, I'm not kind of very focusing, but practicing those basic practices are very, very foundation of deep listening. Without those things, deep listening wouldn't be possible, because you will lose it while you are listening to people. People may say something that is very funny, that you feel like you want to correct them, or something very much triggering your own kind of emotions or whatever, and then you want to correct them, you want to respond to them, and then you lose it, you turn it into an argument, and then in the end we walk away and everybody feels upset. Just one scenario. Yeah. Or when you listen to you, when you don't do it enough, then when you really don't have space to listen to yourself, you will be drawn away by many things. So basic practices are very, very important for deep listening to come about, or can be successful. Is that somehow answering your question?
Yes, definitely. Thank you so much, sister. So the practice of our awareness or mindfulness in our day-to-day, whether it's informal practice or in moment to moment, will be important for us. So it's easier for us to build that ability to deeply listen. So Sister Mai, while we've got you here and you were talking earlier about helping domestic violence victims. Would you like to say a little bit more about those people who may be in the carer professions, who may be helping people and part of that role as a professional, even as a person who's got friends who are going through difficulties, how it is that we can practice deep listening to hear people's sad stories, their suffering, and for us not to be so burnt out, dragged down, or in any way affected to such an extent where we can't help them. Thank you.
Before I go about that, Sister Nghiem wanted to say something.
Yeah. So I just wanted to add,
Excuse me.
Thank you, Sister Mai, for sharing about creating a foundation through our daily practice, so that we have that space inside to listen. And actually, Sister Mai and I have come from a very similar background. I worked as a psychologist in mental health, public mental health service for some years, and also in like as a youth worker and as a family support worker, where children have to perhaps taken away from their parents because of difficulties and things like that. And I also had to listen to a lot of suffering and difficulties. And what I wanted to say was, actually, I was trained as a psychologist, and looking back, I remember I just didn't learn, and I didn't get a chance to learn through all my academic years how to listen deeply. I found that when I was volunteering for Lifeline, I had more of a practical training to how to listen. But again, there is always this this habit that I got into, or because of my training, when I listen, I have to try and find the right question to ask in order to unlock their problems, and I could never really listen just to listen. And I remember one client, one very sick, she had many years of schizophrenia, and she was a Maori, very big Maori woman, and when I look back and I think, wow, she's such a great teacher on how to listen. And, you know, when she comes in one day and I'm preparing to listen, okay, reflective listening and listening in order to find the right question to ask in order to help her. And she just stopped in her track and she put her hand on her hips. Would you just shut up and listen? Just listen. Oh, okay, all right. All right, I just listened. And I thought, wow, you know, because I was listening, but my mind was so busy trying to do this, trying to do that, trying to find the best way to help her. I was just not present for her. I was just not there. And you know, after I found the practice and after I became a nun, practice to deep listening is to not think about anything and just be there. And like Sister Mai was saying, following your breath, being aware of your breath, being aware of your body, being aware of what emotions get triggered, and just listening to that person, not intellectually listening. And that was something that I had to kind of really let go of in my training, was a lot of intellectualizing, analyzing to find out what is wrong, to find out what the root of the problem is. And in that process, I totally was not there and totally was not listening because I was in my head all the time. So that I had to, you know, find ways to just let go of all these previous academic training that I had and just listen and not to think and just to kind of be present, because when you're present, you can naturally feel and tune into the other person in a way that is not intellectual, in a way that you can offer your presence. And I remember our teacher, Tay, he teaches us how to listen with compassion. And listening with compassion is to be able to just listen so that the other person can release, can share, can express what they're going through, what the state of their being, the state of their life is. And listening to not judge, listening to just offer your presence, listening so that the other person has a chance to say what is on their mind, what is in their heart, is already very therapeutic. And we don't have to analyze, and sometimes just listening so that they have a chance to, because when somebody shares with you, it's their process of, it's the way of processing things, processing what is in their heart, their troubles, their obstacles, and not to react and not to butt in, not to try and correct. There's no correction needed, and there's just listening to just be there for them. And listening so that they have a chance to say what is in their heart. I find that very helpful, listening so that they have a chance to let go of their suffering. Perhaps when they say it out, and I've, in my own experience, when I've, you know, when we have, when I've had going through difficulties and I'm talking to my elder sister and my mentor, and I'm able to express it out. And when I'm able to express what's on my mind, even though it might not be right, even though it might be a wrong perception of the situation, when I'm able to say it out, it kind of releases some sort of attachment to, like an inward attachment. That is the right way. It's like I get to say it and then kind of hear my own view about it, and then it changes the way that I see things. And when we're able to just listen without reacting, without judging, without having to solve the problem, sometimes it can be very therapeutic and can sometimes very help the other person. You are like the sounding board. You don't have to offer advice unless they're asking for it. Sometimes what they need is just a listening ear, somebody to be empathetic, to understand what they're going through. So these are my experiences, and I don't want to, go into wear my hat of being a psychologist again, because I get into this habit of trying to solve people's problem, and it doesn't help, because I haven't actually listened and I haven't actually understood. So just listening with a quiet mind and coming back to your breathing, coming back to the awareness of your body, because what triggers your emotion is what is perhaps the other person's, what they're feeling, because we are not separate. We can feel and connect with each other in more ways than we think. And when we are aware of what's happening here, it's like we're aware of what's happening out there at the same time. So yeah, the breath, the awareness of your body and what's happening, triggering in yourself, are the very practical things that I have found helpful in my own practice of deep listening.
Thank you, Sister Sinh. Yeah, I guess it's pretty much what I also did. I remember when I first had the job and I didn't know anything about Thai, about our teacher Thich Nhat Hanh, or the practice of this deep listening in this way. At home, after I listened to people's story, when I came back home at night, I often had nightmares, and I because I was a younger woman than now and live alone, I just migrated to Australia from Vietnam. So living alone as a young woman is very foreign to me as a Vietnamese young woman. So I lived alone and I was very scared. And then I remember probably a couple of years later, I came across the teaching, and I learned the practice of deep listening, pretty much as Sister Nghiem shared earlier, that I just listen to people without having to try to help them. So during the whole listening session, I was just sitting there listening to them and constantly came back to my breathing, constantly relax my body and just allow her to talk and not trying to find a solution anymore. And I remember resources became fewer and fewer. So it was like, as Sister Nghiem, I was very busy in my mind trying to locate resources and so on to help the lady. And so I was not really present, exactly the same. So after I came back to my breathing, I found that constantly relaxing my body was very helpful, because it's very easy for us to be drawn away by the emotion. The story itself is very emotional and strong emotion, and sometimes very, very, very bad, So sometimes I held her hands and I breathed into my palms. Like when I breathe in and I breathe out, I breathe through my palms so that I could send my peace to her. And if I could not generate the peace inside of me, it would be impossible for me to hold her hands and she would feel that peace from me. So it's a two-way practice, I am helping her. I was helping her, but I was also helping myself, if you know what I mean. It's kind of, so I felt very humble in the past. Before that, I felt like I was in a position to help her. But after that, I no longer saw that I was in the position to help. I was the position to work together with her. And it took me into a very different phase of my work life, very, very different. And yes, so after that, somehow and then I would know what question I should ask to get more information. And then suddenly, after she finished talking, if I allow her to talk, then later on, whatever I said to her, she wouldn't interrupt me anymore, because I was fully present. I got all the information I needed. So when I talked to her, she felt that I understood her. and she didn't need to explain further, you know. But before that, she constantly stopped me and tried to inject more information. And it was very difficult to help that way. But after I practiced deep listening, it was much easier because she would just very cooperative. And my work became more relaxing. And somehow I don't really know where inside of me, things just came out. I didn't have to think very hard about what to do. It just came out exactly what I needed to do. And it was a miracle, really. So that was just my own experience. And now I still apply that when I listen to people. Just relax body, coming back to the breathing. Very important, relaxing the body, because that will help you
Grounded.
To be grounded at the end of the day. When you go home, you don't feel exhausted. But if you don't get back to your body at the end of the day, you came home and you feel really exhausted. And one more thing I like to add is when I was able to do it that way, when I came back, you know, because in the domestic violence field, it was very unstable. Like I would go around trying to do everything for that lady. The next morning when I came back to work, I discovered that she already returned to her partner the night before. So it's like everything was jacked, you know, like whatever I did the day before was just thrown into nothingness. That's what I thought earlier. But when I was practicing that way, I learned to look deeply into her situation, and I understood very well. Like you said that put ourselves in people's shoes. It's a bit like that. In Buddhism, we say contemplating the body in the body, the feelings in the feelings. That means I put myself in her position so that I could feel what she felt. I could feel what she felt in her body and in her situation, you know. So when she behaved in a way that I didn't expect, I could accept her. And when she came back, I could just start from the beginning. You know what I mean? It's a bit like that. And it would repeat. The circle would come back and like round and round and round like that. And thanks to that practice, because of that practice, I had real compassion in my heart toward the lady. And I didn't, most of the time, I didn't get irritated because she just kind of went back or behaved in a way that I didn't expect. So that's just a little bit from my own experience to share with you. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for sharing.
I find that deep listening is most difficult with family members because because our family members know us very well and we know them very well. So I know for myself, my own practice, I think it's the hardest to deep listen to my parents because sometimes they just say the things or they tell me things and my emotion just goes right up the edge, right over the top. And because it touches a sore spot, or you know, like it triggers past wounds and things in ourselves. And so that's why the practice of stopping is so important. If we are not able to build enough strength in our ability to stop at the critical moments of not, you know, stopping, realizing that, oh, my emotions have been triggered, and stopping at that moment to just say, look, I'm sorry, I'm just feeling really upset. I just need a bit of time to just go and take care of my emotions. And if you're not able to stop and at those critical moments, you can say things that may worsen the situation. And so this is like I said, the practice of stopping I find really critical. And you can take any sound. We have a Plum Village app that you can download for free, And in this app, there is you can set a bell to sound every 20 minutes, half an hour, or an hour, according to how often you would like to stop. And this is really our daily practice, in, day out. And still I find it difficult to stop. So my ability to stop is continuing to be trained, my muscle to be able to stop at the right time with my actions, with my speech, and even with my thinking, to be able to stop when I need to, is really, really important in the practice of deep listening. Yeah.
Tina, before you go on, I don't know if you see some comments that people make on the chat.
Yes, I have, and I was going to it, but thank you for raising that, sister. So it seems like there's been quite a lot of nods and confirmation in the messages about family. So I think, sister, you've definitely hit a spot there. Perhaps this is something that other people feel as well. Someone said it's especially hard with parents. So there are some questions here. So I'll just like to ask the first one, which is this. So in relation to mental health, what about deep listening with thought disoriented, tangential, ruminative, delusional people? I feel in those situations, you have to be on the edge of analysing thought form whilst listening and also challenging their perceptions.
I don't know whether I can respond to this very well, because unfortunately for me, not like Sister Mai, who knew the practice while she was still working. I only came to the practice right at the end when I wanted to stop working. So I didn't actually get to experiment with my practice of deep listening to people who, because I worked with people with severe schizophrenia. And of course, I've heard of delusional thoughts, and they tell me the delusions and their paranoia. But I think I can only respond in a kind of looking back, like hindsight. But I don't have direct experience. Sometimes we hear people say things that are a bit kind of odd, and we may not agree with their perspective, but it's not about challenging that, because why do you, if I see that it's a bit of a kind of an odd thought, then it might kind of indicate to me their mental state, but I personally wouldn't want to challenge that unless it's something that it's going to lead to action, lead to behavior, or leading to some sort of overt consequences. Perhaps I might ask them to check in. Is that something that you're really sure about? Or perhaps it's an indication of their mental state. Maybe they haven't been taking the medication that they need to. Maybe I can check in and about the medication or the mental, if they have because it's kind of like a general thing, so I can't really specifically say it, give a very specific response to it. But I would probably see what is left unsaid, trying to address, you're feeling very fearful at the moment because of what the delusions are indicating, that maybe they're paranoid that somebody is going to hurt them. So you can, I'm hearing that you are feeling very fearful. What can we do to help you calm these fears? So addressing the need behind the delusional thoughts and delusional expressions, so addressing the need behind that. There may be an emotional need that is coming through the delusional thoughts. So that's about it, that I can kind of respond to that. I don't know whether Sister Mai can say any more about that question.
Yeah, thank you, sister. You know, I feel that what we practice here is no way that can replace professional help for people who have who've been formally diagnosed with some mental health issues or things like that. What we do here is to be able to mostly respond to people who are working with those people as their profession. And you know, if we over the years, when Sister Sinh, Nghiem and I lived in Plum Village, occasionally we had people with a mental health illness to come and stay with us based on their doctor's recommendation or their psychiatrist's recommendation. And we always said to them that they would need to follow their doctor's advice and treatment to continue while they are staying in Plum Village, because meditation is no means to replace professional help. We can work together with them, but we cannot say that we have the solution for the whole situation. So occasionally we had to contact certain people, because the thing is, when people came to Plum Village, the atmosphere is so peaceful. People enjoy the atmosphere so much, you know, and then they feel like their situation improved so much, and then they stopped taking medication. And because sometimes some of you work in the mental health field, you know that it's not only about, it's not just one single cause, it's also about the chemical in the brain and so on and so forth. So when they stopped taking the medication, they became a little bit imbalanced, unstable, and then their illness came back while they were staying in Plum Village. So we had to call for professional help to come and join hands with us and so on. So I mean, when we practice deep listening, of course, as a professional, you will have your own skills when you were trained in university or in your profession. If you are a parent or a relative of a person, then of course you will need to get help also if it's kind of, you know, out of hand. And this is just one aspect of the holistic way of building a network to support the person. This one is no way to be a single kind of solution. So in that sense, I would say that we will definitely need to continue to build our foundation by the basic practices. And the more you have that foundation established, and you combine that with the skills, the knowledge, and other help from the professionals relating directly to the issue, then I think whatever you provide, whatever help or assistance you provide to your beloved or your clients would be much better, would be maximized. And I think it is to the best of our ability that we can do. So of course, with I have my own sister whose grandson has autism, and so her daughter suffered a lot, you know. And as a nun, I practice this and I share this with people who are willing to join me in the practice and being receptive. But with my family, I cannot help. They just don't receive it, you know. So I have to breathe. I have to breathe with that kind of acceptance that my sisters and my niece, they deal with it in their own way, and I try to help them to introduce to them this practice, but not everybody making is for this sort of thing. So I just have to accept that that is life.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing, sisters. And if I may just quickly add, so in the work that I do as a lawyer, one of the areas of law that I do is mental health advocacy. So that's where I go into mental health hospitals and I meet with patients who are in the mental health ward. And it's very hard for some of them to even hold a conversation like what we're having now, but we can still practice listening by being there and being respectful. It may not be the things that they say, it may actually be something that is deeper. So still seeing the humanity in them as a practice of deep listening rather than the words that they say. So I hope all of those answers helps the questioner for this. And if there's more to add to it, if we haven't answered the question, feel free to also pop it into the chat as well. But let's move on to the next question. And it's in some ways related as well. So someone has asked, what about deep listening in people with ADHD? Question for you, sisters.
So, dear friends, I guess it's again along the line with what I already shared earlier. Of course, ADHD is another issue, but I guess the same thing that the person who has contact with children, or it's not easy. When I am sharing with you these things, I want to acknowledge that this is not an easy thing to practice. It needs a lot of determination, needs patience, needs time, perseverance, you know, in order to train ourselves in this kind of to develop this skill. And so we have children who come to the monastery and who have that kind of issue, children with ADHD, autism, and all the things. And I think what we practice as the nuns here, we treat them as everybody else. We don't see them as with that problem. And when they show the behavior, it is just a behavior. We don't kind of, because of that behavior, we label them. And I know that outside, of course, you know, in outside world, of course, people have their own way to help these children or these people. But in the temple, that is what we do. When the children come and they jump around and they are so high and so on, well, we just know that they jump around and they are so high. We don't say, oh, they have ADHD, you know, kind of treating them that way. As Tina said, we treat them with full respect, and we try to find different ways to channel their energy. So lately, Sister Sinh Nghiem here, she has a lot of help from our lay people, lay friends, and then we try to channel their energy. You know, we find things for them to do. We create a little garden here for them to do, and yeah, so we try to channel their energy, and we treat them as everybody else. And if we need to listen to them, we will just listen to them like we listen to everybody else, with the same techniques, with the same heart. So I don't know if you want to add anything.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm to be honest, I don't have a lot of experience. Sometimes people come and they don't tell us that that they have ADHD, or maybe they had ADHD in the past, but it's not such a huge problem anymore for them. So like I would agree with Sister Mai that we treat everybody with equal respect, and as a human being, that we try to just listen to them and try to understand what their needs are. And sometimes, like I said before, it may not be a need that they can express verbally, but that's why when we're able to kind of calm our mind, then we can kind of understand and tune in to the person's needs, even if it's unspoken, if it's through their behavior. So that's how I would kind of respond to a situation like that. I would just treat them as any person, and not try to see them as somebody with ADHD and how shall I deal with this person with ADHD. I have to go and find out what's the best way. But just to kind of treat them very human, as a human, with all their needs to be loved and to be listened to connect deeply, to be present. To be present for somebody is to show that you care. So sometimes in just doing that, and people receive something already. Yeah, so that's, I don't know. I mean, I'm not a professional, so I can't in that area, so I won't be able to maybe appropriately respond so much to that.
Yeah. Can I just, before you go to the next one, Tina, can I just go back a little bit on ruminating and stuff like that? You know, for us as a practitioner, sometimes we see that in the other people, you know, like people may be ruminating and so on and so forth. We see that in other people, but sometimes we actually do it ourselves. I don't really know if people here have that experience, but I do those things, you know, and sometimes I am a little bit delusional and so on. So I suppose that it would be very, very important and very useful to recognize those things in ourselves also. And when we do that ourselves, what do we do with those things? How do we practice? You know, and if we go from there, perhaps we will have the answer for other people. So that is a challenge I like to pose to you tonight when you walk away from the screen. Is that okay? If you'd like to take it away.
Sounds good. Thank you, sisters. The next question is probably related to that, ruminating. If we are truly content, the mind would dwell in silence and contentment, but self-talk is symptomatic of some kind of dissatisfaction. My question is, how can we practice deep listening to our self-talk in a way that is healing?
Good question. Very, very good question. You want to go first?
No, I haven't got anything to say at the moment. So if you have something, please. If we are truly content.
Yeah, the thing is, we never feel truly content, you know. That's our problem. We never,
or not for long,
or just a split second, and then we will need another condition to be content. So the practice in meditation, we actually say there are two wings, you know, two wings. One wing is stopping, which is samatha, and another wing is vipassana, which is deep looking. And a lot of time in Plum Village, when you come to practice with us, we will encourage you, or we ourselves do, is to do a lot of samatha, which is stopping, because without stopping we never can actually have a clarity. Because if we don't practice stopping, we will continue ruminate, we will continue being delusional, and so on and so forth. Our mind is all the time thinking, analyzing, judging, and so on. So, you know, we always try to encourage people and encourage ourselves to practice stopping by coming back to our breathing, coming back to our body, being aware of our steps, being aware of what we are doing, of the hand movements right now. I am aware that I am putting my hands here. I'm aware that I kind of moving my hands a lot, so I'm going to put it back. So that kind of thing, those kind of practices are helping us to stop. And when we stop, our mind is more relaxed and we will create space in our mind. And when we have more space in our mind, we can see things more clearly. So that is why most of the time we do practice stopping. And when I first became a practitioner, I thought, my goodness, if I all the time empty my mind, then when would I see things, you know? How would I plan things? How would I have insight? I share in I shared it with the sisters when I was in my first year as a novice in Plum Village. I said, if I keep doing this, when do I have insight, you know, because my mind is all the time empty. And they just laughed at me. They didn't answer because they knew that I wouldn't be satisfied with the answer. I just had to experience it myself. And then I kept emptying my mind. I kept relaxing my body. And then suddenly during a walking meditation, an insight came to me, you know, it was amazing. So from that day, I knew that it was okay to empty my mind. And because I had that direct experience, I had faith in the practice of stopping. So I continue practice stopping in the various forms. And because I could practice stopping, I could practice deep listening. I could practice deep looking very, very well, much better than before. So yes, so that's what I've been trained and continue being a trainee.
I just have a question. Self-talk is symptomatic of some kind of dissatisfaction. I'm not so sure. I find that sometimes my own self-talk helps me to see the situation clearer. I ask myself, are you sure this is what's happening? Maybe I'm having a perception, or maybe I'm thinking, oh, my sisters don't care about me, or they're doing something and it hurts me or something. And my self-talk would be, are you sure? Maybe because Tay has asked this, has a calligraphy says, are you sure? But I find self-talk may not reflect some kind of dissatisfaction. Self-talk I use for myself to reflect on things. So I'm not quite sure I understand what how you are referring to self-talk, or what you mean by self-talk is maybe different to how I do my self-talk. Or sometimes self-talk is a way that I kind of process through something, an obstacle or a difficulty or something, a dissatisfaction. So I'm not quite sure. How can we practice deep listening to our self-talk in a way that is healing?
Can I
received some
clarity?
I've received some clarification. The person who asked the question was referring to self-talk in a way where it was a judgmental kind of self-talk, like a negative self-talk. So sometimes what happens when people have self-talk that is negative, it could be one where they put themselves down, where they don't encourage themselves. And so that can spiral in a negative way. So it's about how do we heal that kind of negative self-talk?
Well, first of all, like again, the practice of stopping and just to recognize, to call our mental state, or what we call a mental formation, by its true name, or to call a feeling by its true name. A feeling is one of the mental states. So when we're able to just stop and recognize what is going on, then already that is healing, because because again, the self-talk can be judgmental, can spiral down and make you feel worse. And then when you feel worse, you will see things, appraise things in a more negative light, and maybe not very correct and not very true to the situation. And then again, it goes in a vicious cycle of negative emotion and negative appraisal of the situation. So in this case, it's so important to be able to stop and just come back to the body. Where am I feeling these things? Because our emotions, our thoughts also correspond to some sort of physical feeling. And when we're able to just kind of locate that in our body, especially our feelings, when we have an emotion, there's sometimes a physical feeling associated with our emotions. And when we're able to stop and recognize that, oh, I'm feeling this, and it's kind of like it's a knot in my stomach, then that is very something concrete that you can kind of, again, come back to your breath and breathe into that space and allowing it to expand with your breathing, and allowing it to just calm down, helping to physically calm that emotion in a physical sense, as well as helping to calm it in the mental, because our feelings, our body and mind are so interrelated, interconnected, they inter-are with each other. So when we're able to be aware of the physical sensation in our body, it also can help us to calm these mental formations, these thoughts, and this self-talk, and to be able to recognize, oh, it actually hurts me when I think in this way. When I have these judgmental thoughts, this judgmental self-talk, actually it hurts my stomach. I can actually feel the pain, and that's very the practice of the first noble truth, recognizing when we suffer, how we suffer physically and emotionally, and actually the first noble truth is a practice of recognizing and being able to stop and to recognize is really important, and they're like two wings of our daily practice, to recognize what is happening. So that's how I would respond. I'm getting so excited about this. Sorry, my own energy level as I'm talking to you about this. So yeah, so
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. And it's such a great discussion as well. And we've got a few more questions. I know the time, we are coming to the end, but I also want to respect those who have asked these questions. So sisters, I hope you don't mind if we go a little over time, and our friends.
Okay.
The next question is from someone who's here at the centre, and their question is, thank you, sisters. In practicing letting go of your ego and self to be able to deeply listen, how can we do this?
Since Sister Nghiem just stopped talking, I thought I might just put my 2 cents in while she's recovering.
I just want to say thank you, Sister Mai, because you don't see it, but she has a hand. When I'm getting all excited, she has a hand just gently on my side, and like, oh yes, good. Help me to just, okay, I'm getting all excited. Thank you. That's very good to have friends on the path.
Definitely.
Yes, so now we touch on the very key thing, that is the ego. In our practice, we have a Dharma door called beginning anew. That means that we renew our relationship with ourselves, or with our partner, or with our parents, or with the environment, whatever. But now I'd like to just talk about beginning anew with the other person, whoever that person is. It could be your beloved, could be work colleague. And in a human relationship, I myself find that most of the time my ego goes first, because I always want to show my good stuff I want to show my good face. I don't want you to see my other ugly kind of weaknesses. So I reveal to you this kind of secret for me. I used to be a teacher, you know, and as a teacher from a Vietnamese background, I had to be correct. Because I'm a teacher, I know it. So I tell you, this is what I think, and it is correct. That's how I used to be, you know. And partly that's why I quit being a teacher, which was not a very good solution. I became a nun to practice, to transform that kind of habit energy. I remember one very good friend told me that we stay in Plum Village for nearly 4 months together as lay people. And before I said goodbye to her, I said, do you have anything that you'd like to share with me about me that I can improve, you know? And she said, you know what? You know everything. Everything you know is correct. Oh my goodness. I didn't know that I was like that. So that was the first time somebody told me into my face that I was egoistic, you know? So sharing that to you, just to say that the beginning a new practice for me is not easy because of that kind of egoistic background. But I have to learn to let go of my ego when I recognize that how precious the relationship between me and the other person is. I ask myself, is my ego more important than that relationship? How important that relationship is to me? Like my sister Sinh, Nghiem and I, we live together here, and we are very different, you know. Sometimes we clashed, and I felt that I was correct. She felt that she was correct, and we clashed. And then we just kind of like that, and we had to begin anew in many ways, and we had to let go of our ego. So the first thing is to ask ourselves, is this relationship important to us or not? How important to us is it? Because if it's really important to us, then we might consider to come back to ourselves and look into ourselves and honestly think about the situation and kind of admit that we have at least 50% contribution into whatever happened. And that will help us to, you know, to become more humble and have the willingness to start working on some reconciliation. And if we talk about that, you can Google beginning a new practice, Plum Village, and many talks will come up, and you can learn from various Dharma teachers or practitioners, because now we are running out of time, so I can't really go into details. But on a nutshell, that's what I am doing. I always ask myself, if that relationship is important to me, the harmony between me and my family members, is it more important? Or what I think that I am correct is more important? And in that way, I can let it go, even though I still think that I am not wrong sometimes.
Thank you, Sister Mai. The next question is this. A Dharma teaching I heard advised to listen 90% and talk 10%. Also to ask the question, what would you like me to understand? Or what would you like me to know? Do you think they are helpful suggestions?
Listen 90% and talk 10%. Yeah, I think that's very helpful. I think I think that's very helpful to listen more, and so that we can learn. Yeah, so you want to say you have something?
So,
no,
yeah.
that's fine.
So, what came to my mind right away when I read the question is, that could be helpful, but you need to test it out for yourself. And if you really practice, somebody before that also asked whether we listen with just our ear or our heart or whatever. For me, of course, first of all, we listen with our ears. Our ears are the instrument nature gave us to listen. That's the first thing. But as a practitioner, we engage our whole body in the process of deep listening, as we shared with you earlier. So, of course, we listen through our ears, but we engage our whole person into the process of deep listening. Our presence, our breathing, our body, and our eyes, our senses, all the 5 senses. And if you practice mindfulness and kind of mindful of your breath, you build that up day by day. Certainly, when you are in a situation, you will know exactly what question you will ask, when you should just keep silence and when you should share. So the percent is just really relative, If you practice mindfulness, if you are mindful enough, you will know exactly what to do, what to say, and when to ask, what question you should ask.
There's no
with
kind
that
of
particular person.
there's no kind of mold or kind of set way to do things, but with mindfulness you can allow yourself to be connect to the person, to the appropriate timing and to what their need at that time is,
and their energy. Like I connected with Sister Nghem's energy when she was a little bit excited, So through deep listening, I was able to feel it, to connect with that. So it's just an example.
Yeah, there's no set rule.
So, but definitely, try that out, and you will know. You will know for yourself. And
Thank you.
Yeah.
Go on.
No, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. I really appreciate you not only answering that question, but also the other question I was about to ask. So we have no more questions.
Great. This is flowers we offer to each other.
This is how we
this is how we do clapping.
The silent
Silent clapping.
Yeah, the sign language clapping.
Excellent. So thank you again so much, sisters, for your time, for your presence, for your deep listening and your sharing with all of us today. It's been such a wonderful journey and session. And now I'd like to pass it back over to our MC, Elise.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Tina, for facilitating, and thank you so much, sisters, for your presence here with us and sharing the generosity of your time and your wisdom with us as well. We really, really appreciate it so much. And before we close off, we'd like to invite you to give a dedication of merits, if that's possible.
Sure. Hồi hướng. Sharing the practice.
Sharing the practice. So we would like to thank you for offering us this wonderful opportunity to connect with you, to share with you our experience, and to get to know you as friends, because we are friends on the path, and having friends on the path is nearly all of, I remember Ananda asked the Buddha one time, how it's really important to have friends on the path, right? And the Buddha said, oh, actually it's almost all important to have friends on the path. So it's really wonderful that we can get to know each other a little bit, and we hope to be able to meet you in person at the Stream Entering Monastery in near Dalesford. If you have a bit of time, or if you happen to be in Victoria, come and visit us. We would love to be able to practice with you in person as well. And we also have a bit of advertising. We have live sitting at 5:45 each morning, most morning except Monday morning. And you are welcome to join from wherever you are. Please go to visit our website, www.nhập
Connection.
and we put it into the chat box.
Maybe later we send it to Alice and she can send.
It will
Yeah,
be
I'm very
just
happy for it to be placed in the chat box, and I'll also share it to our members as well. So for those who want to continue the conversation and connect with us, we're also on WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram. So there's so many ways to connect. So if you are interested to join any of that, feel free. You could also send us an email. We could add you to the WhatsApp group. So sisters, I will add that to share that with our members as well. But thank you so much.
So now we will read the sharing the merit,
chanted,
and
right?
then we will finish with the 3 sounds of the bell. So we all can come back to our breathing and be aware of our body, relax our body, and just share the merit we generated tonight together to all beings.
We chant it, right?
You can read. Chant. You want to chant?
Yeah, I feel
Okay,
like
okay.
it'd be nice to chant it. Sharing the practice, practicing the way of awareness gives rise to benefits without limit. We vow to share the fruits with all beings. We vow to offer tributes to prestigious friends and numerous beings who give guidance and support along the path. Hope you have a lot of joy and happiness and peace in your practice of deep listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night's sleep, everyone. Just come back to your breathing and erase everything you hear tonight and go to bed. Okay? Please do not bring it to bed.
Yeah.
Okay. Good night, everyone.
Thank you
Thank
so
you so
much.
much. Good night.